Hey all, Jason Levon, priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Welcome to another Lenten edition of Pause and Pray. Despite all of the heartbreak and pain of watching my stepdaughter Vanessa navigate addiction, and in a way that would ultimately end up claiming her life at the far too young age of 29, almost a year and a half ago, I'm forever grateful for some blessed and graced moments that I was able to spend with her. One of those moments that comes to my heart today is when she was navigating what I think was the longest period of sobriety in her adult life. And she was doing so because in that chapter she was able to recognize she couldn't save herself and had surrounded herself with all sorts of love and support. She was living at a wonderful facility here in Milwaukee called the Maida House, which is a residential home for women navigating addiction. And I remember visiting with her one spring Saturday afternoon. The sun was bright and warm, and we were sitting outside on a picnic table just basking in its light. There was clarity in her eyes and a clarity to her thought that wasn't there when she was using. And she was reflecting with me on the gift of being there because she said, I don't have to lie here. And she spoke about the weight that lying brought to her when she was trying to hold everything together by herself, and how she couldn't remember which lie she told to which person, and it was just so exhausting. She said, here we're all just broken, and we know that. And there's a freedom in that, and sharing that with one another. Yes, despite the fact that addiction claimed her life far too young, it wasn't able to stop some real holy wisdom from surfacing in her life. In this case, it was the wisdom that it's only when we can acknowledge the cracks in the cisterns of our lives, like she was able to do at the Maida House, that life and hope and strength and support could spill into and out of our lives. In chapter 2 of Jeremiah that we read from in today's daily office, through the prophet, God is lamenting at humanity's tendency to want to save ourselves. And as a result, the prophet reminds us that when we try to do it that way, we only end up digging cracked cisterns for ourselves that can't hold the life-giving waters of God. But here's the thing about Lent and about the prophets, that despite the cracks in our cisterns, it didn't stop God from continuing to reach out to us with love and grace and peace and mercy. It's what the prophets were instruments of, God reaching out again and again to a people living with plenty of cracks in the cisterns of their lives, with an invitation back to covenant and with a sense of light and grace and mercy and renewal. And if that wasn't enough, it's what led God to become one of us. Wrapping God's self in skin and allowing God's self to be broken by our brokenness, as this picture of Michelangelo's Pietà so beautifully depicts. And here's the other thing about Lent, then, that it's only when we acknowledge the cracks in the cisterns of our lives that all that love and light and grace and peace and wisdom and truth of God is able to find a way into and out of our lives. So today, as a Lenten practice, we're invited to pause and pray, reflecting on the cisterns of our lives and where the cracks might happen to be in them. But also in a Lenten way, not to see the cracks in the cisterns of our lives as barriers or obstacles, but as an opportunity for us to offer our lives again and anew to God, in all of the cracks in the cisterns of our lives, seeing them as opportunities and invitations for wisdom and truth and peace and grace and light and mercy, for Christ to spill into our lives again. Lenten peace and blessings to you all.